just kind of walk me through? I take it you were in Indianapolis when everything kind of rolled out with the Big Ten tournament canceling, then NCAA's. What was kind of the reaction?
Well, it was. Well, my first reaction was just, not so much disbelief, but like, okay, well, hey, we can figure this thing out, play without fans. We're still going to make it happen. And then I got a call from the Big Ten Network. They called and said, hey, we're canceling the show. I went, well, probably means there's no game. If the Big Ten is canceling their show. So then it just kind of cascaded from there. And then we have family in Italy. Jonathan, Luca's cousins play professionally. One played at St. John's with Lavin, Coach Lavin, and Chris Mullen. Amor Alabegovic is my brother-in-law. And so anyway, they have been under terrible conditions, as you know. And so we've been alerted to it, heightened to it, almost, not say ahead of the curve here, but we were very much into the social distancing. We'd be working out and we'd literally have to send people away. It was uncomfortable. It was not your normal social interaction. It was like, hey, don't come any closer. And here's why. And you can see the numbers in Maryland. It's double what it is almost here in Virginia. Anyway, it's just...
Yeah, well, and you're watching it all from D.C. All right, we're good to go. I mean...
Okay.
So, I guess, what was the reaction from Luka? What do you say to your son who, obviously that's what every basketball player dreams of, is being in those postseason moments. What do you say to your son in those situations?
That's a great question, because it's like there's no book for this, Jonathan, right? Like, let me go to page 297. What to say to your son in a pandemic before, the team is peaking, right? That game in Illinois, they almost had it. It was a great coaching move to call us a timeout right at that play, because the guy figured out that we came out with another one. But anyways, it could have gone either way, and it was really ours. So we were peaking. So I had to get some distance to it. I've always found that getting distance to anything going on helps. So think further out, get outside of it. And so we look at who else have had, not so good or happy endings. Well, our folks in the military who suit up every day and some never come up. So you look at that and go, wow. I look at my college mate in college, Dan O'Brien, who was an Olympic athlete. He scratched on it was the gold decathlon, the Dan and Dave thing. I don't know if you remember that years ago.
Right.
He scratched and then had to wait 4 more years. And then I think of Randy Lewis, some of the other Hawkeyes, and not just Randy, but the wrestlers and those that Carter canceled the Olympics. Guess what, guys? Some could never go back and compete. So life isn't fair, right? That old saying, my dad says, hey, fair is what you pay to get on the bus. But with that, having said that, it hurt like in the solar plexus, because Luka was at the peak. The team was at the peak. They were ready to do it. And Daniel Arturo and Luka are friends, and they couldn't wait to battle. That's the best thing, Jonathan. Getting someone, I knew who it was for me. It was Kristoviak. He played for Mike Montgomery at Montana. He was the coach at Utah State. Then was at Milwaukee Bucks. He played. So Mike Montgomery, great coach. Stanford, the Warriors, etc. So anyway, he was but we respected each other. But we couldn't wait to battle. So, man, Luka was ready. The team was ready. Having that just taken away is a reminder that playing is a gift. Being able to compete, to do this is a gift, and that's why we must live in the present moment, because you never know when it'll be taken away. His mother, my wife, went through the Bosnian War. Her life was turned upside down and say, get on a plane, or guess what? You're not going to live. And 22 years of your life were left here, were spent here in Sarajevo. Now you're going to another continent. You don't even know how to speak English. So he has great examples in his family. But selfishly, if I may say this, Jonathan, it was almost as devastating as his surgery in September of 2018, because we had worked so hard. He was so ready for his sophomore season, then bang, 5.5 hours under the blade, 9 hours total. And he never got back into a shape that he could, because he couldn't catch up. So that's how I felt about it. And he took it in stride, he took it in stride as a champion,
Yeah. And I do have to ask, to piggyback off of your wife's lineage, what does it mean to Luka to represent the Bosnian community, so to speak? I know I have friends whose families went through similar situations growing up here in Des Moines. Obviously, we have plenty of Bosnian heritage here. What's it mean to Luka to represent that group of people to that extent?
Oh, he loves it. The great thing about our union is the bringing together of two continents. That born in sport, almost born out of sport. My coach was brought over to Yugoslavia, the first American ever to touch the junior national team, which had coach Divac, Raja, Alibegovic, and they beat the Americans as a junior national team. They were skated to win the Olympic, but guess what? They were the dream team, and then it became 5 countries, and they all went Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro. So he loves it. He's honored to be half that. I'm honored for him to be that. I love the heritage. These people accepted me. I have almost 70 cousins now. It's like and there is a Bosnian presence. There's a Yugoslavia presence in Iowa. In fact, there's a great place right not far from, forgive me for not remembering the name, Iowa City, but no, they're a gregarious people. They're wonderful, great values. So he has great pride in representing our family, as does my daughter as well. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
So, obviously not the circumstances you want the season to end, but Luka went right back to work once he got back out to D.C. He's in the gym, well, it looks like just about every night with you throwing assists to him. So what's that been like? One, father-son bonding, and two, to see him continue to work at his craft.
Yeah, well, we've always had that, with come back and get ready. Our greatest growth has been in the off-season where we could just get away and just sequester ourselves into doing something, incredible. So that was fun. He didn't want to stop, and he was in great shape, so I tested his range. This is the best shape he's in the peak ultimate. So you saw him shooting from the center circle, right, which is 35 plus, and drilling it, one time 22 in a row. So he did that, but now we're to take a little time off. We were doing 2-a-days there right away. 2 days after, he went back, took a test, got on a plane, got here, bang, we're out working out. And so, but now it's time for, everything kind of develops in 9-week cycles. So now it's the time to, because he got thrown to the floor many times, as you know, and beat around. So he needs a good rest, doing the yoga, doing the meditation still, doing all that, because the mind can't tell if you're working out or not when you do the proper, what they call at NASA, visual motor rehearsal, which is bring the future into the present. Go to the moon before you actually go there. So when you go there, you're totally comfortable and able to perform at an optimal performance level.
Right. What is he looking at for NBA? Obviously he announced that he's entering the NBA draft process, not getting an agent, so he keeps that eligibility. But
correct.
What's the big thing he's hoping to gain from the next 2 months of experience here?
Well, it's a great question because Luka, they refer to it in the businesses. He doesn't pass the eyeball test, Jonathan, right? He's not look at him and go, wow, what a freaking athlete. Although his mother does, I know, right? His sister does. Man, look at that boy. Because we remember when he tripped on the baseline, right? He would trip on the foul line. Yeah. And you go, well, how could he trip on the foul line? I would go, exactly. You know what I mean? But now look at him. The guy just had power, So he's for us, it's a whole different lens. But the point is, he does not pass the eye test. That's why he's not on any mock drafts, on mock drafts at all. What he does pass in an inordinately great fashion is does he fit? Mm-hmm. Jonathan, in other words, there are bean counters, analysts back there crunching numbers. Okay, we need for 10.32 minutes someone to come in, not have the score go down, stretch the court, defend, and we can take advantage of our matchups in our 2-3 guard. We'll post them. He won't mess up. He'll get every rebound. He'll do that, but we only need him for 10 points, and that's worth X amount. And there are those people out there, whether it's this year or next year, they are there. And those are what we call a fit. So Luka is a fit NBA guy, someone that's looking for something very specific. Will look for Luka. Plus, Jonathan, he's 21 years old. Most of the big men in the NBA are 35 plus. There's a seniority of people on the way out. So I think all that's in his favor. Plus, we just proved that we can shoot better than any big man. I'll say this for the record. Any big man right now in the NBA, with the exception of Kevin Durant.
That's a good exception.
I need another summer for that. Give me one more summer. I'm DMV, Maryland. Don't tell him that. He'll probably come hurt me. But no, it's Luka too. But he's a DMV boy. And he loves the game, as we all see, as does my boy Luka. So I make that statement. He can drill 22 in a row from 35. Hard to say any big man can do that 6'11" above.
Yeah, and obviously the nice thing for him is he does have that option of returning for his senior season. With that in mind, I mean, you look at that Iowa team, and they have the potential to be a top 5 ranked team out of the gates next year if Luka comes back.
Well, Jonathan, it's a great point. I mean, people laugh when I say this. When I first was saying it, people were like, I was like, when I first met friends, I said, hey, we're coming to Iowa because I believe with your coaching style and your blend of intangible players, besides basketball players, intangible, high character, which you saw with all this adversity that's been going on, right? You see how they came together, after Jack Nunji was out and then J-Bo and everything. So full of intangible. I said, well, let's win a national championship together. All right, and then when I say that, people are like, oh, yeah, okay, But listen, are they laughing now? See, the point is, with a great fit, it would have to be an unbelievable fit in the NBA for him to leave because the fit at Iowa is cement. I mean, it is marrow deep. And, he loves it. It's his home. And what would that mean to bring home something that's never been done there? That would be the goal. So what would have to be the circumstances for him to leave that? Almost unfathomable. But you know what? My dad says, Grandpa Jimmy says, feedback is the breakfast of champions. So we're going to listen to these phenomenal, brilliant NBA minds talk to us about, hey, how to get better, just like they did for Peter Jacques, which they did for Tyler Cook, what they did for Weiss. And there's that's why Fran was saying, hey, he better go do it.
No kidding. It makes sense.
What kind of coach is that, right? Look at that for a minute. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Here's a guy that is, I don't think he gets enough credit, but that's me selfishly saying that because, it's too much depth. He plays too many guys. Even I was saying that maybe at times if I'd be totally candid. But look at it, the value of having all that depth. Without it, where would we be? So, he's a fit player. Have to be an unbelievable set of circumstances, which could happen. It could happen. He's 21. He's raining threes, and so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about "Let the Peacock Fly," a phrase that burst onto the scene with you at the NCAA tournament a year ago or so, and something that has garnered a lot of attention. One, where does that originate from, or what brought that to life for you, Frank?
Well, it's like a saying we had. Well, some of it is certainly his influence was amplified by that other guy's movie, But I had peacocks. I love them. My name in Latin America is a bird. It has. So I've always loved birds, ostriches, the peacocks, herons, everything. So the expression is I put it on the website. It's more of a hey, don't let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do. Be the best you can be in the present moment. That's all that counts. Doesn't matter where you've been. There's no value. There's no future in the past. Past is relevant insofar as it illuminates the present. So go out there and let it go. So in that game, I was a little frustrated, and Luka was hesitant as that. So when he got back in on that game, it was all right. You got to let him fly. Just let him play. He knows what to do. Just let him play. And so it came from that, and then it built up. I tell the story, Jonathan. I was with Carrie Ash. Austin Ash's father. We went to a Wisconsin game, football game, because I love all the Iowa sports, And I was walking around and like 300 times minimum, I heard, "Let the Peacock Fly." And I'm like, I'm pretty stupid, Jonathan, but I'm not that stupid. Pretty soon I figured, well, there's something we can do good out of this that would benefit everyone. So that's what we did. My dad's had a nonprofit. He does everything. He's the executive director. He's on the one on the checking account. Runs everything. So we decided, what's the best use for this money? Well, we said 55%, which of course has a certain number to it, right?
Yeah.
We'll go for teachers who can't get to those national conventions, because I think I benefited from phenomenal public school teachers that saved my life. I mean, that showed me the way, that took their time, that gave me books, read to me, cared for me into learning math, patient with me for this. And what I always learned from them was they always taught me that, hey, if you can teach others, that's the trick. Pay it forward so that you don't dominate it and they all have to come to you. They're their own gurus, so help them. So the idea is almost like the example of Jesus in a way. Going, let's help them fish, and then they can supply us. So take Iowa's best ideas, go to a national convention, learn others, interact, bring that intellectual property back, spread it with that olive oil, and I think that's part of paying it forward and giving it back. And then 45% will go through the inner game work, Jonathan, that you've seen Luka really deeply go into and talk about more openly, which was when you reach a certain level of performance, it becomes 95% mental, 5% physical. Because parity, everything being the same, those who perform better are those that have seen it in their mind eye and practiced it a billion times. So when they come together, they're more prepared. It's a competitive advantage. And if you were to ask me what's the secret, and Lucas has said this to his performance consistency, is Einstein's thought experiment, which was bring the future into the present. So in the summer, he was visualizing playing against Michigan Crystal Center in August, even though he didn't get there till fall.
Right.
You follow me? So when he got there, he was fine. By the way, he got there with only 1 foot. He had sprained his ankle in circles. He couldn't even walk that day. So it just shows you how powerful the inner game is. Most coaches, while they touch on it, it's almost a disservice at this age not to be giving people the skills to internally drive change.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's awesome. And where do those funds originate from? I guess you talked about the nonprofit aspect of it.
Yeah. So my dad's had a nonprofit for 27 years. We did a basketball camp and basketball work in Marin County, where it's called the Golden Gate Shootout. So what it is, we've only sold like 400 or 500 shirts. It hasn't been a tremendous amount. By the way, CBS was going to have Charles Barkley hold it up, and we figured we would have sold $1 billion. I mean, not $1 billion, $1 million or something, right? So all these things were there. They were going to do a little special because CBS does a little breakout 45-second things. We were going to do that. So my dad's, we put out the application. My dad's going to do a report. Here's how many shirts were sold. Here's what's available. Right now, we only have enough room to send one teacher, but there's no conferences yet. But he's going to be doing an official report with that coming out. Okay. And then we're going to try and do a drive to see if we can get 5 teachers, so we know how much it is. And, like Nicholas's Bear's mother helping us out with that, and these folks to find the best conference.
Yeah, you talked about Fran pulling out the best of the intangibles in that basketball team. What has it meant for you as a dad to be able to put your trust in Fran McCaffery and see Fran allow your son to blossom and grow as a man, not just on the basketball floor, but off of it as well?
Well, it means the world. It's like it's hard for. Well, think about it. Here comes, here's a Power 5 conference coach, and here comes along a father and son deal where I'm in charge of his development. So, hey, coach, listen, what do you need? I'm going to get. So it says it's almost like that's weird, and it's not weird. It's just very unique. And a coach has to have an ego in place and so self-reliant to go, man, that's really unique. Let's foster that. Hey, here's what I want to do. He and I talk basketball. Hey, have we thought about this? Hey, Fran, what about this? Every workout we did in the summer, I filed with him. I said, Coach, and with Bill Maxwell, the strength coach, here's what we're doing. Is anything going to get in the way? So it was total transparency. So when Fran would make the claims of what Luka would do, like Big Ten Player of the Year on his birthday, is the reason why is he knew that Luka was doing stuff that no other player he ever experienced, or maybe on the earth, was doing. And so he knew that was going on. So what did it mean? It was allowed for what happened and what's happening right now, Jonathan, which is Luka to let the Peacock Fly, to let him blossom and to reach his potential, whatever that will be, and not try and stuff it into a bottle. And that takes genius. I think Fran is a basketball genius. I've said it. I said it 3 years ago. People laughed at me. They're not laughing now. And his genius is in putting together these personalities and maintaining that fragile balance so that each player believes like they're the most important person in his life, and they are. And that's the trick. They are. What other coach would be doing what he's doing? So that's how much that means to our family, is the McCaffery family. We're going to know each other for life, and we're on it.
And with that, too, I mean, whether it's this year or next year, what will it mean to see Luka's name called in an NBA draft, or to see Luka put on an NBA jersey someday?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When that happens, I've already visualized it, right, myself. Because you anything that what is that Velveteen Rabbit? That great book. One of my first books I read was like, anything real was imagined first. I love that saying when you think about it. Anything real was imagined first. Exactly. Yeah. Someone had to think that there was land. Columbus had to think, the 29th parallel. Had to be something there, right? Pythagoras, Copernicus, right? These guys had to think, we don't orbit the sun, or the Earth doesn't orbit the sun doesn't orbit the Earth. So, wow. Well, what's it going to mean? Well, I have something special to share on that day, which was, and I'll share it with you. You'll see it. Hopefully, we'll have the chance to do that. Was he wrote down some goals as a young boy, and one of them was that. So I still kept that, of course, as a dad, and I have that. So it went well. As a father, you want your kids to, what did Aristotle talk about, which is parenting's like this. We're the bow. The child's the arrow. So as parents, we're trying to give that much trajectory, not too high that crashes, enough to go high and far, but it's a balance. Not too high, you crash. Not too low, you smash. But just enough, it gets its own lift. And as the great, the Jonathan Livingston, Richard Bach said, no man or woman soars so high as if with her own wings, And so that's where Luka's taken off, and same with my daughter for that reason. She's just a nurse, so she's a nursing school, so she's doing that in that area, but under the same philosophy, same modality of thinking.
Awesome. Well, that's all I've got for you, Frank. So
all
thank
right.
you so much.